I'm glad I stumbled on your videos because the first one that I watched was your video on Christopher Columbus, and I thought that was really, really good. Some stuff that I never thought about. Who was the author of the book that wrote? It was something about Columbus and New Jerusalem, I think. Who was that author?
Yeah, her name's Carol Delaney. Carol Delaney, and she wrote Columbus and the Quest for Jerusalem.
Oh, okay, that's okay. I was trying to
Yeah.
remember the title, and thank you. How is that is that a long book? Did it take you a while to read it?
No, I read it in a couple of weeks. It's in pages length, 200 or 300 pages. In time, yeah, just a few weeks. But it was one that I read twice. I was really, it's dense. And yeah, it's a history book written by an anthropologist. And it's pretty fascinating stuff. So at least I thought, anyways.
Mm.
And it was enough of a departure from my what I had thought before about the whole scene back then with that particular historical figure and what people thought and what people think that everyone else thinks, uh, uh, um and then that name came up in some comment section, and then I went, oh wow, this is more interesting than I thought. Especially it gets interesting because it's such a inverted, experience with what I had thought before.
What, but prior to reading the book, like what were your thoughts on Christopher Columbus?
Mostly negative. I just thought of I had a point of view that I thought that it would have been better if he had never made it. I was thinking, I remember thinking, man, I too bad his ship didn't sink on the way over or something, because I thought he was just like some violent like terrorist. That's, or not a terrorist, but just like um a opportunist, you know, bastard. I didn't think of him, but I probably thought a lot of people back then just were that. I didn't. Yeah, so I had negative view about him. So in that video, I talk about my impression of the Howard Zinn characterization of him,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, that was a reread. I read Howard Zinn probably a decade before, and then just wanted to, and then I just reread it because maybe Columbus Day was coming around or something. This was the summer before last when I was deep way into Columbus. So I read that, and then it kind of like generated more of that negative feelings, and then I someone had given me there's another book that has a good sized section on him. James Lowen's Lies My Teacher Told Me, and that's another kind of staple for a lot of people. The name Christopher Columbus would come up, and people go, "Oh, did you read Howard Zinn? Have you read Lies My Teacher Told Me?" People would say that a lot to me, and or I would hear that, and then so that's why it was fun to be. It's fun to change your mind a little bit. It's difficult to change your mind, but it's fun. And then I changed my mind with the other book, and I know there's a lot of really intelligent people in that comment section challenging Delaney, but I don't know. So what? It's I continue reading and learning, and that's the fun part, is to be surprised and to be wrong. It's a good. I mean, this is maybe I could even make a connection to a video that you made, but
Mm-hmm.
having your ego take a beating a little bit, the ego killer, is a good feeling in any direction. I don't want to get too married to any idea or historical figure or whatever. And then I liked that you brought up the four agreements. And that doesn't relate exactly to, but it made me think of just managing your own thoughts and thinking about how you treat yourself, your inner, you know, the conversations you have with yourself, and then you had a nice discussion about that. So I was happy about that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a very good book, and I actually have sticky notes at my computer with some of the agreements on them, just as a reminder. Yeah, no, that I really like that book by Don Miguel Ruiz. As far as Carol Delaney's book, What do you think was like the biggest surprise that you read about in that book? Because I'll tell you, for me, from watching your video, I was surprised at how Columbus seemingly was an advocate for like the people that he met when he landed over in North America, and he really wasn't a didn't really enslave the people. He actually tried to like help them out and prevented others from enslaving them. I don't know if any of that is accurate or is 100% like your words from your video, but that was kind of the a surprise that I got. I don't know what your biggest surprise was from reading that book.
Yeah, that, and I agree with that mostly. There were times where Columbus and his crew took captives, certainly, and there certainly was slavery, the encomienda system happening over there, happening down there. So there's a lot of cross currents. It's hard to explain it in a real black and white way, but based on his writings, I just didn't think it was surprising his intentions were. It's really convoluted because I don't think it's driven by greed, and that's one of the first paragraphs in the Howard Zinn book, is that he cared about gold, glory, and slaves. And I don't think so. I think he cared about the souls of the natives. I think he cared about their well-being. He clearly wanted everyone to be a Catholic. I'm not Catholic, but he wanted that. But I think those are good intentions. Yeah, I think there's a lot of presentism in my old George's thinking about Christopher Columbus from a year or two ago, and wanting him to be just have the same set of morals. So it was surprising to think of him more as a human being. I was surprised on some basic stuff, like that he even made a journey 4 times. I didn't know he crossed the Atlantic 4 times. I didn't know he went to South America and Venezuela and Jamaica and Honduras, battles that happened. I didn't know. Well, I don't believe he was a Spaniard. I believe he was Genoese. That's why I mentioned, like, why isn't this a series? It just felt like there's a lot of adventure there. I mean, my hope is maybe there could be a series that has eight of it, as like some of the HB, like 1883 or Yellowstone, something that viewers would take seriously, but then also does honor the natives and show the raw truth about what happened to them, because there's horrifying stuff there. But then the intrigue between who gets to be governor of Hispaniola, and the relationship between Columbus and the monarchs or the royals, and then his relationship with his belief system, because that was he really wanted to raise money to help free the Holy Land. The quest for Jerusalem is Christopher Columbus wants to help fight off the I think it's the Turks, I think it's the Ottomans that had taken over the Middle East, and he thought, well, that shouldn't be, that's wrong, and we're going to do a reconquista of the Middle East. So I'm thinking, like, he's a more interesting guy than I thought.